Billy to try this out. Now, we're several hundred years back in time. While they were there, they visited a Frenchman, and he left behind with him this battery lantern. And he told the man, he says, take this lantern and use it, make more batteries, and put lights around your house, and wire it to your door. He told him how to do it. He says, I want to go back in my own time now, which was 1956 then. He was 19 when this happened. He wanted to go back in his own time and see if he could find some record in history then of this man having done something in the past that would affect the future. So Billy leaves the battery-powered lantern in the 16th century. He gets back in the ship and goes home. Now, he can't wait till he finds out. In an old book on French history provided by a friend, Billy finds his answer. In these old books, it talks about the man who lived, who had a strange house that people would go to and see strange lights. They would grab his doorknob and some strange force would bite them or hurt them. It did turn up. Billy was able to go to the past, leave something in the past, and affect now and affect the future. In effect, time rewrote itself. A difficult concept, right? But time is something you and I are going to have to learn to live with in a little bit different way in the future.
It's very unusual to get pictures of extraterrestrial spacecraft. It's even more unusual to get more than one craft at a time. Billy has pictures of 2, 3, even 4 craft. What you're looking at here is a small remote ship hovering below a regular beam ship. These remote or telemeter ships, as the Pleiadians call them, are used to keep track of our languages. You see, they monitor all of our languages. They say they have on file every language we've ever spoken on this planet. The reason for that is simple. The Pleiadians, even though they're telepathic, have difficulty listening to some of our emotions. It makes them feel uncomfortable physically. So they use the remote or telemeter ships to monitor our languages, our news broadcast. This allows the Pleiadians to study us to better understand the differences in our societies. On many occasions, Billy was asked if he could bring friends along to see the ships. They always remarked no, that would not be possible. However, they did allow on a few occasions for Billy to bring several friends together and take pictures at night. Billy, however, was the only one ever allowed aboard ship. Usually people would drive him out to a contact, let him out, and Billy would disappear into the woods. Quite often, Billy could be taking pictures of the ships, and someone standing even 100 yards down the road couldn't see them.
Billy quite often asked if it would be possible to visit other worlds, and are there other civilizations out there having the same problems that we are, and how are they doing at it? Well, Semjase came one day and says, I've gotten permission to take you with me, and we're going to visit other galaxies. You're going to get to go aboard our very large mothership, if you want to call it that, and not only you're going to get to meet the leader of that, but we're going to take you to some other places. We want you to know, we want you to have your own truth about what's going on out there in that family of man that's spread all throughout the universe.
This picture was taken from out the window of a beam ship by Billy. You can see the ship just in front of them in the bottom frame of the picture. The green color is caused by the atmosphere inside of the ship.
Well, Billy was picked up, and he was taken on the ship with him. They went up to the large mothership that was in orbit somewhere around Jupiter at that time. While he was there, he got to meet Ptah. That's pronounced Ptah. And he's the leader, or one of the leaders, of the Pleiadian race. They have several. By the way, their leaders are a little different than ours. They're called Ishwish, which means in the Pleiadian language, king of wisdom. Ptah is an Ishwish.
This is a picture of Ascot, his teacher of earlier years. He was reunited with her again on the mothership that day. One of the rare pictures of the extraterrestrials.
On this particular ride on the mothership, by the way, there was 140,000 people on the mothership living there. The ship was about 17 miles high and about 10 miles in diameter. Looked a little bit like 5 golf balls all hooked together. Well, the ship left our area of the galaxy and went to someplace else. They had something to show Billy. Billy and Semjase got into one of the smaller ships, left the mothership, and went off on their own, because Semjase wanted him to see what World War III looked like on another planet. When they got close to the planet, Billy was looking at the screens inside of the ship, and Semjase was explaining to him that this planet down here is having problems similar to what's going on your own planet. One government against another, one nation, one brother against another. But it had gone a little farther on this planet. They were into their World War III. They were hurling giant missiles already at each other. Billy watched in terror almost on the screens as he saw people by the millions being killed. It was right in the middle of battle. He couldn't help asking Semjase, why don't you interfere? Why don't you get involved? She said, this isn't our section of space, and there is another race of people, which she showed him on another screen, that lives in this area that will be involved soon. They said it's important for us to know that they feel we have our own right to grow on our own, that they're not going to interfere in our right to do whatever we want to with ourselves. They would defend the planet. They wouldn't let us blow the planet up. But we have our own free will to do with our lives as we want. However, on this world, it was coming close to seriously damaging it, and this race of people had decided that they were going to interfere. As Billy watched, Semjase told him that the battle would end soon, that not any more would die, that within a few days they would come to their senses, the extraterrestrials who were in that area would make their presence be felt, and peace would come on that planet. But it would be peace on their own terms. It would be peace because they wanted peace. They would not be forced to by any extraterrestrials. As they watched on the screens, Billy noticed a runaway missile that had gotten off track, and it streamed right by the little ship they were in. And actually, it even rocked their ship a little bit, and Semjase had to grab the controls and get the ship back in control. It had bumped into the screens protecting the ship. As the very large missile hurled its way on out into space, Billy had to ask, are you going to allow that to happen? What's going to happen with that giant missile with that large warhead on it? She said, well, watch. Even as we speak now, Ptah's ship is doing something about it. What he watched, he said, or what he saw was a little strange. They have a way of dealing with things like that that's a little beyond our science. Billy looked out the window, and he saw the giant missile hurling on into space, and as it passed in front of Ptah's much larger ship, a very strange kind of liquid-looking energy came out of Ptah's ship and engulfed the giant missile as it went by. Suddenly, the whole form of it went into a rectangular shape. It engulfed the missile, and it kind of froze in space there just for a second. And Billy said it's kind of hard to describe it. Suddenly, it just kind of crackled like an egg cracking and disappeared. Whatever energy they had put out engulfed the missile, broke it down into its own molecular structure, whatever, and it just disappeared. A fine way of dealing with it. Either that or it somehow exploded into itself. We don't really know. That technology is a little beyond us. So extraterrestrials do interfere at some point. Just like the Pleiadians have told us, they would draw the line when we start to affect the planet, the solar system, or the universe around us. But we have the right of free will to do with ourselves as we please.
Billy and his family were awakened one night by this strange energy, strange light, whatever you want to call it. Billy went outside and took some pictures of it as it hovered over the parking lot in front of his house. It also awoke people all over the area. Billy only was able to run off 4 or 5 shots that night. He tried mentally to communicate with it, but received nothing. Later, when he asked Semjase what it was, she didn't know either. We could be looking at the first ever pictures of a collective consciousness, a group of people living in energy form.
Man should know that the God force is quite simply that of creation, and that man also, either coming from the higher spiritual spheres or being elevated to those spheres after numerous terrestrial lives, is subject to creation and respectively complementary to it. The higher he soars, the greater becomes his power. However, one can never identify God separately from the creation, because God itself is a part of creation.
If you had your own extraterrestrial to talk to, I'm sure you'd make a great list of questions to ask. High on my list, of course, would be, tell me a little bit about what you think of God. Do you have God on your planet, and do you have religion? What do you think of ours? You see, we've been confined to our planet all along here for several thousand years without influence from other races, as far as we know, and we've been left alone to kind of come up with our own forms of religion and belief structures. Of course, on this planet, you can travel to about any country and get a different idea of what religion or belief should really be. But what do the Pleiadians think, and what are their concepts? To begin with, what we call a universe, they call a creation. Now, their science is far more advanced than ours, obviously. So they've learned a lot of things about the universe, how it's come together and so forth, that we need to know. It ties right in with a discovery of who we are and what's really going on. The Pleiadians have what they call the laws of creation, the discovery of how life started and what a creation is. These are valuable things for us, and it's going to make a major change on our planet as these sort of new principles work their way into our society. How will we adjust to that? How will the church and other people adjust to information that comes from these type of sources when they tell us what they saw when Jesus Christ was crucified, when the pyramids were built, when Moses parted the Red Sea? Or did these things really happen the way that we've heard about them? Well, let's talk a little bit about the laws of creation. What are laws of creation? It's the rules that the Pleiadians have figured out that they live by to govern their lives, how the universe came about, and how they came about. It basically goes back a little bit almost to what we've learned about Eastern philosophy a little bit. You see, they not only believe in reincarnation, they use reincarnation. It's a study with them. They're born already aware of other lives. They're born into a telepathic society where they communicate with each other. They understand each other's feelings. Can you imagine what it'd be like on our world if suddenly all of us had mental telepathy and we could hear each other's thoughts? For the most part, we all walk around pretty comfortable that other people don't know our thoughts. If I suddenly told you that by watching this tape in 10 minutes, you would suddenly all become telepathic and know each other's thoughts, there'd probably be a big scramble around the country for all of us to hide our innermost feelings. Well, don't worry, I'm not going to do that. I don't know how. But if that were possible, and someday it may be, we have to face the possibility of what we're really keeping to ourselves. We need to clean up our thoughts and have a better discovery about who we are and where we come from. And they're going to try to help us with that just a little bit. Let's look at some drawings now, as if we were in a schoolroom on a Pleiadian world and someone was drawing for us kind of a printout, so to speak, of what a universe is and how we come about in it.
To begin with, what we call a universe, the Pleiadians call a creation. And they're telling us that in the beginning, it's nothing but a thought, created by the creation just before it. You see, creations have to evolve also. They set up the logic for all life forms that follow it, including us. This creation then will grow and reason and understand how to evolve on its own. It then becomes what's called the Sohar. The Sohar then is like what we think of as a Big Bang Theory. The Sohar then explodes into the size that the creation will be. No planets yet exist, only the energy that they will be made of. Creation will continue to manifest at different densities, creating planets, then the mineral kingdom, the food kingdom, animal kingdom, and us, in one large cycle of evolvement that finally brings it back together. It then continues on its evolvement by repeating this cycle. This cycle includes the growth of planets to raise it up to a certain level of evolution. Once the creation gets to that particular point, it has to figure out what to do next. The Pleiadians have been able to move back in time to the very origin of our creation and figure out step by step how it works. Most importantly, they've been able to discover how we fit into it. What is the meaning of life? They've been able to understand now that man goes through 7 primary steps of development, beginning with very basic prehistoric life, moving totally up into creational's life. You see, that means we go through a series of material lives on purpose to learn, to spiritually grow and contribute energy to the evolvement of all creation. We are all part of the same spiritual force of creation, and we all participate in its evolution. The present creation that we live in is expanding. Soon it will be contracting again. The entire lifespan of this creation will be 311 trillion, 40 billion years. We're currently in the 47th trillion year. We're in the second of 7 cycles of repeating this entire process. The planet Earth that we live on